Right, welcome to this video on how to set up for a drum recording. There's going to be two stages to this. The first stage is really simple. We're going to set up the monitoring setup. That is the setup that enables the studio engineer and the performer to hear each other, and also the performer to hear things like backing tracks. And then we're going to set up the 7 drum microphones. I'm going to show you how to get the kit completely ready for recording. So let's start with the monitoring setup. For the monitoring setup, we're going to need 3 things: a pair of studio headphones, a jack-to-jack cable. Okay, now it's absolutely fine to use just a TS cable for this. It's just standard jack-to-jack cable, and a headphone amp with its power adapter. Okay, they're the 3 things that we are going to need. So, very simple. Let's get the headphone amp plugged in first of all. Now, this headphone amp happens to have a European plug on it. So there's an adapter on the end. You need to make sure that's in. There's a plug socket nice and handy located in here. We just plug it in under here. Turn that on. And you should have a green light on the headphone amp, and we're pretty much ready to go. All we need to do, take the jack-to-jack cable. We're going to plug one end into the headphone output on the wall panel. Okay, so I'm going to go into A, because that's what's labelled A headphones. That's going to go in there. We then need the other end plugged into the headphone amp. Now, there are quite a lot of different things on the back of this headphone amp. All you need to remember first and foremost is top right. Okay, top right. Why is that? Well, because that's input. We're going with input A. And we've only got one cable, so we want a mono signal. So we're going to put it in the left port. But top right is the most important bit. Turning it round. So we've just plugged into input A. So we need to make sure that input A is selected, which means that that light is off. If it's on, that would mean that it's selected to this one over here, and that's not what we want. Okay, so make sure that that light is off. Then put the levels, these 3, roughly central. So one is just the volume, one is the pan, that should always be center, and one is the actual level. Okay, when you've got music coming through from the control room, what you'll actually see is you'll see the levels indicated on there. But central is good for when we're just setting up. Okay. Last thing we need, a pair of headphones, studio headphones. This has got an adapter on it. So you're very familiar with the small jack. This one's got a large jack adapter on it. And as we've said, we're going to go into output 1. There we go. Leave that nice and tidy. Tidy up after ourselves as we go. Drop a drumstick. That wasn't very tidy. Need a bigger drum room. Not enough space in here. Okay, so the drummer can come in, pick up the headphones, and be ready to perform. That is the monitoring setup ready to go. Okay, there'll be another video showing you how to set up the other end in the studio. So what do we need to actually set up the drum mics themselves? Well, first of all, we need our drum mic kit. Okay, 7 microphones in here. We'll deal with them individually as we go through. So 7 microphones. We're going to need 7 XLR cables. Now these live permanently here. They're all the right length, they're nice and neatly stored in a figure of 8. There's another video showing you how to tie a figure of 8 if you're not sure when you're packing up. Try and keep everything tidy. It's like the #1 rule of recording anything. Keep everything nice and neat, because then if you've got a problem, it's really easy to trace back and find where that problem is. What else will you need? You'll also need 3 mic stands. Okay, one of them is the low mic stand. This is quite a small, short mic stand. This is going to be for the kick drum, and then 2 tall standard microphone stands, which you're going to need for the overheads. I've got the kick drum mic stand in my hand, so let's start with that one. How to set up a mic stand? Well, the base needs to be at the bottom of the main part of the stand. So we put that down, then we open up the 3 legs to form a tripod. Okay, and then this part, this is called the boom. I'm going to open the boom out. If it's too tight, then you can simply undo this. That will make it easier to do, but generally it's okay. You can also extend the boom on our mic stands by undoing this knob and pulling that out. But what is actually going to be the case, that's way too long for the purpose that we've got. So I'm going to put the boom back in again. I'm going to stand this, again, a little bit shorter space. I'm going to stand this at the back of the kit, pointing roughly at the kick drum skin. Okay, there we go. So we're ready to set our first microphone. And the first one that we're going to do is this one. This is the kick drum mic. It's an AKG D112 Mark II. It's a really nice mic. Please look after it. Costs the school quite a lot of money. And on here, we have two different connections. We have a standard thread for a mic stand. Now, this one's actually got a thread converter in it and ready to go, so it already matches the stand that we're using. If there isn't a thread converter in there for any reason, then you'll need to put one in. We have a box of those in the control room. And we also have a male XLR connection. Okay, we've got the 3 pins sticking out, which means that, as is traditional with microphones, the female end of an XLR is going to go into the microphone. So we need to get this on the stand. Here's my first tip. Okay, my first tip. I see loads of people trying to put the microphone on and then spinning the microphone around, which is really awkward. Don't do that. Instead, undo the knob, take out the boom. Okay, and you can see that this now spins. So line it up and just spin and done, pointing roughly at the skin of the mic. And you can see handily that means our XLR is now pointing out, ready for us to go. So let's get this mic connected. We're going to need an XLR cable. Take it off the wall and take it out of its figure of 8. Okay, we don't want cables in figure of 8s when we're using them. That is just for storage. So take it out of its figure 8, get it nice and untangled. Means that we're not going to end up with any tangles later. Okay, now you can see now in the process of doing that, we ended up with a loop. Attention to detail, folks. Take it out. Yeah, okay, nice, neat, and tidy. Now I've got the female end of the mic cable in my hand. You can see 3 female pins there, 3 holes, not 3 pins at all, 3 holes. Okay, and I'm going to put those into here. Now, XLR cables have this little ridge on here, and their connectors tend to have a little notch for that to connect into. So you can line that up, or probably easier, you can line the 3 pins up. But if it's not going in, don't force it. Okay, put it in, you'll hear a little click as the spring inside gets it. And then the other end of this needs to go to the wall box. Okay, now the wall box is always set up in the same way. And it's always labelled as well to try and help you out, make this process as easy as possible. Okay, so notice how I'm tidying up after myself. I'm making things as neat and tidy as I can. Coming over to the wall box. Here's the wall box. And here's the chart telling you where everything is. We've already used the headphone output with A. You can already see that. So channel 8 is the kick drum. So I'm going to take the male end, which is the end we've got, and I'm going to push it in. Okay, and this wall box has little connectors on it that make it click in. So if you want to take it out again, you need to press this little button before you are able to pull it. If you just pull, yeah, it's either not going to come, or if it does, it's going to pull the socket off, which I can see someone has maybe tried to do in the past. So make sure you press the little button when you come to tidy up after yourself. Okay, so there's the kick drum ready to go. Get the wires as neat and tidy as possible. We don't want any health and safety risks. Okay, and we're ready with the kick. Let's do the overheads next. So I'm going to need a normal microphone stand or a tall microphone stand for this one. Same drill as before. Put the base at the bottom of the stand. Open out the tripod. Okay, and then open out the boom. Now this is going to be a high mic, so I'm going to have this up here, but I'm not going to put that up there until I've actually put the microphone on it and it's ready to go, because that would mean I'm working at an awkward angle. So think about these things logically when you're setting up. Try and be logical about it and save yourself aggro later on. So we need to do the first of the overheads, and the overheads have their own clips which live in the kit. Okay, so we take this. And this one's got 2 threads on it. It's got a wide thread and a narrow thread. Okay, we're after the narrow thread, but we don't need any kind of converter for this. So again, undo the stand so it spins in your hand. Put it on, do it up. There you go. And this one should be pointing straight down, okay, because it's going to be over the cymbals. The microphone is one of the 2 pencil condensers, okay, P17 by AKG. Again, nice mic, look after it please. Put it into the clip, just push. There we go. Then we need to connect this one. Take an XLR cable off the wall. Undo it. Okay, female end. Find the notch, line the pins up. Push it in. There we go. And I'm going to take this straight around here and connect it. Now, If you're standing this way, as the drummer would be looking, you might think that that would be overhead right, because it's on the right-hand side of the drummer. But actually the important thing is that we're from audience's perspective. When the audience perspective would be watching the band, they'd be looking at the drummer like this, which means that that mic is actually overhead left, not overhead right. Okay, so the listener's perspective is always what we actually want. So overhead left, you can see on our chart, overhead left is channel 4. So male end in and click. Nice and straightforward. Tidy up after ourselves as we go. Looking good. And then this is much too close. We're picking up the cymbals with these. Okay, much too close. So I'm going to undo this, put it up. Right, so all I did was twist this, move it up, and then twist it to tighten it up again, and then make sure the mic is pointing down. This mic stand, and lots of our mic stands, have little clips so you can keep the wires in order as well. If not, you can just loop it around parts of the microphone. That one is ready to go. Let's do the other side, which will be overhead right. Again, same drill, undo the base, put it to the bottom of the stand, open the tripod. Okay, now I'm going to avoid putting the stand on top of cables because that just means things are going to get pulled over. Open the boom. Okay, we're ready to go now. Take the clip, and I'm going to take the mic at the same time, save myself coming back later. Same deal, spin the stand, not the mic. On we go, lefty loosey, righty tighty. Pointing straight down, mic pointing straight down. XLR cable, take it out of its figure of 8, female end on the microphone, line up the pins and the notches and that kind of thing, push it in till you hear a little click. This one's wobbling about a bit, the clip's a little bit loose, but that's okay. Once we've sorted the wires out, that won't be a problem. Okay, and we said this was overhead right. Therefore, this is going into port 3. I'm getting tangled up in our little drum room. Okay, so pointing straight down, put the mic up, similar sort of height, mind the roof in this case. Okay, and this one doesn't have any of those handy clips. I'm just going to loop it around the mic stand, keep everything nice and tidy. Now this one's probably too far back. We're picking up the crash and the hi-hat with this, so I'm actually going to push it out. I'm going to use the extension on the boom. Have that out there. There we go, so let's check our overheads again. This one's looking okay, pointing down pretty much at the ride cymbal. This one a little bit further out over the top of the crash and the hi-hat. So we've got 3 mics out of 7 set up so far. Next we need to do the rim mics. So, rim mics. I leave the rim clips on permanently, and the main reason for that is they're an absolute pain to take on and off. Okay, they're really easy to break when you're taking them on and off, so they're permanently attached. Now before you do this, you need to make sure that the threads are where they're supposed to be, because they get caught in here. It's actually not a brilliant design. Okay, so just make sure that the screw thread is pushed as far forward as it can, and that way it is ready to receive the microphone. I'm going to do that with all of them. There we go, looking pretty good. So, here we go, rim mics, dynamic mics, AKG P4s. The whole mic set is made by AKG. I'm going to start with the floor tom, or tom number 3. Okay, so I'm going to push this forward, put the mic up to it, offer it up, make sure it's straight. If it's not straight, it won't go on. Okay, I'm going to turn, I'm actually turning towards the wall over there. Okay, and that is now on. We want it pointing at the drum skin, but not touching the drum skin. We don't want that, it's going to ruin our signal. Okay, there we go, that's our first one. Let's do tom 3 next. Again, push the thread forward. Okay, and just turn. Again, pointing at the skin, but not touching it. Tom 1. Push the thread forward, line it up nice and straight. These can take a bit of practice, it's worth having a go at them. And the snare, the clip is hiding under the hi-hat, which isn't too much of a major problem. Okay, put that on. Okay, like I said, they are quite fiddly. I've done these loads of times. You might need some practice to do this. Actually going to move that round slightly, because what we don't want is this picking up, getting too much bleed from the hi-hat. So I've just moved it round a little bit. Attention to detail always, folks. So our drum kit, our mic kit, is now empty, and we are ready for our final cables. So let's do Tom 3 XLR cable. Take it out of the figure of 8. Okay, female end again goes on the microphone. Plug that in until it clicks. Now you might be tempted to go around the front of the kit here, right? You might be tempted to just run the cable. Oh, get the tangles out first. You might be tempted to just go, oh, okay, well, I'll just plug it in here, okay? But what's that going to create? It's going to create a bit of a mess, and it's also going to create a potential hazard for the drummer, okay? You want the drummer to be able to walk in here, not have to worry about cables, because people tripping over cables is not good for them, but it's also not good for the equipment. So the cable is long enough. If you go around the back of the kit, we have enough cable. Okay, we said this was Tom 3, or the floor tom, so this is going into channel 7. Excuse me. Just negotiating our tiny little drum room. Oh, I've got a real frog in my throat. That's not good for a video. Not good at all. There we go, nice and sorted. Next one. Tom 2. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but take the cables out. Right, female end of the microphone. Line up your clips and your notches and your pins. Okay, and we said that Tom 2 is channel 6. In that goes. Another XLR cable for Tom 1. Female end of the microphone. Line it up, etc., etc. Nice and tidy as we go, always. Oh, got a kink in this cable. Look at that. Again, we're taking it out. We said this was Tom 1, so we look on here. Tom 1 is channel 5. Last cable is going to be for the snare. So last time, female end. Find the notch. Try to put it on backwards. That won't go so well. There we go. Okay, going to run this around the back of the hi-hat. Got plenty of cable for this one. Again, keeping it nice and tidy. And the snare is channel 2. Plug that in there. Okay, so our monitoring setup is ready. Our mics are ready. Just have one more last check of everything, because we've been moving around. Kick drums in. There we go. And our drum room is all set and ready for us to make a 7 mic recording. So now that we've got our drum mics set up, we need to actually set up a Logic project to be able to record all of those microphones at the same time. Let's check the physical side of things before we get into the software side of things. Now, you don't actually have to do very much here, because this setup over here never changes. It's always set up the same. Everything is always labeled nice and clearly. So we have a copy of the diagram from the drum room so that everything matches up. So for example, channel 5 is Tom 1, and these don't change. Don't ever take these out, please. They stay there. That is an area for teacher only. Okay, these connections are coming down, and I've just got the XLRs tucked out of the way, but they're going to the interface. Most of them are plugged into the back of the interface, because that's where the XLR ports are. So channels 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 are all on the back, and you shouldn't ever need to do anything with those. They can stay where they are. There may be occasions where we're doing more advanced recordings and we need multiple mics in here, but normally in the control room area we only ever need 2 microphones. So don't worry about those ones on the back. It is worth checking that the snare cable, the one labelled 2, look, colours match with the diagram on the wall. It is worth checking that that is in channel 2, because if it's not, then you're not going to be able to pick up any snare. And that is a common troubleshooting issue. People go, haven't got any signal off my snare. I've set it all up properly, but they haven't plugged it back into the interface. Channel 1 is empty because remember, we're using channel 1, okay, for the TalkBack system, which I'll get to a little bit later. Oh, sorry, we're using it as a spare channel. So I'll talk more about TalkBack in a subsequent video. Okay, so make sure that that is in there. These here, there are 8 knobs, 8 controls. These are the gain controls. These are how much signal we're going to be receiving from those mics into the interface. And that's what we need to set up now. There'll be a later video on leveling. You're going to use those controls there. For the moment, we just need to get it into Logic. So I'm going to switch to screencasting now instead. And here we go. I'm going to open a new Logic file. Now, the last thing I did on Logic was to record a YouTube video. And as a result, my inputs are not set up right for recording. At the moment, I've got USB audio codec showing on both input and output. USB audio codec is the mixer. Okay, so we do want that as the output because that is always our output. USB audio codec is always our output, but we don't want it for the input because our microphones are coming into the interface. So I need to change that to the Scarlett 18i20, which is the name for the interface. So we should have output device USB audio codec, input device Scarlett 18i20. If these aren't showing up, it means they're not switched on. That might seem basic, but sometimes basic things cause people problems. So click apply. Okay, and at that point, we now have a whole load of different inputs to choose from. Okay, there are 18 channels on the interface, so we can have different inputs going in various different ways. Now we have a clear list of what is what. We know that input 1 is the spare, the one that we're going to use for TalkBack later. So actually the first one we want is the snare drum. Okay, so that is on input 2. So I'm going to select input 2, click create, and straight away I'm going to label it snare. I'm actually going to go a step further and right click on the diagram. I'm going to change it to a snare drum. Okay, there's our first channel. So that is the first of our 7 mics is going to record onto that track. Click add another track. We don't want input 2 for this one. We want input 3 for this one. This is going to be our next microphone. So this one, what is output 3? It's overhead left. Change the diagram. What is it? It's recording cymbals, isn't it? So let's go there. Next track, input 4. What's that? Overhead right. This one again is doing cymbals. It's over the top of the hi-hat, so we'll put that in. Next one, input 5. That's tom 1. Again, go drums. That's the smallest tom. Next one, input 6. Tom 2. The middle one. New track. Input 7. Tom 3, or you could call it floor tom, up to you. Drums, it's the biggest one. There we go. Next one, input 8. This is our last one. This is the kick. Let's use the one that matches there. There we go. So we've now got 7 channels set up. If I press record at the moment, it's only going to record the one which is selected. You can see it's only recording that track. So what we need to do is we need to arm all of the other tracks. We need to say we're going to record all of them. So to do that, we click R, arming the tracks, it's called. Okay, we click R on all of them. And also we want to be able to hear what we're recording. So I'm going to click I on there. Now I've actually got my iPad in there running with a drum track, and you can hear that coming through. Now we have also, we're also going to have a TalkBack microphone. So you don't have to have this if you want. You can listen to it through the through the talkback system, whatever the drummer is doing. But if you want to actually monitor what they're doing through here, you'll need to have those enabled. That will mean that you are listening to that microphone or that microphone, whichever it may be. So make sure you've got them all armed before you start your recording project. And now you're ready to make your recording.